Welcome. This is DFG, the man with the golden voice, the lady's choice, and I'm smooth as a Rolls Royce, where I'll take an in-depth look at the leadership styles and domestic policies of two influential American presidents, Donald Trump and George H.W. Bush. Today, I will explore how the contrasting approaches shaped the political landscape and affected key areas such as tax reform, immigration, and regulatory measures. First, let's dive into their leadership styles. Donald Trump is known for his populist and confrontational approach, often breaking with traditional norms. He relied heavily on social media, engaging directly with both supporters and opponents, frequently using sharp rhetoric. His style was marked by bold action and public controversy. In contrast, George H.W. Bush demonstrated a more diplomatic and pragmatic demeanor, favoring bipartisanship and stability. Bush was often described as a gentleman statesman, someone who approached issues cautiously and valued finding common ground across party lines. Moving on to domestic policy, Trump enacted the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, a major piece of legislation that lowered both corporate and individual tax rates. His administration aggressively pursued deregulation, rolling back diversity and environmental protections. On immigration, Trump pushed for building a border wall, mass deportation plans, and reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy. Major domestic policies of George H.W. Bush was the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, a landmark legislation improving accessibility and rights for people with disabilities. He also was instrumental in getting the Clean Air Act amendments published in 1990, which strengthened environmental protections and regulations on air quality. Also, one of the things wasn't a knock against him was his fiscal policy. He broke the No New Taxes pledge to help reduce the federal deficit, which alienated some conservatives. These policies reflect Bush's pragmatic and bipartisan approach, focusing on legislative achievement in civil rights and environmental protection, even at the cost of political backlash over taxes. Foreign policy, the contrasting styles and global impact. Let's start with Donald Trump. His approach was branded as America First. What does this mean in practice? He withdrew the United States from key international agreements such as the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal, signaling a shift away from multilateral commitments. He also imposed sweeping tariffs that led to trade wars, most notably with China, and renegotiated trade deals emphasizing American interests over global cooperation. On the diplomatic front, Trump held direct talks with North Korea, a move unprecedented for sitting U.S. presidents, and took a transactional approach to alliances, often questioning traditional partnerships. Now let's look at George H.W. Bush, and his style was markedly different. Bush managed the peaceful end of the Cold War, working closely with global leaders to reduce tensions. He signed the START I Arms Reduction Treaty, which marked significant progress in nuclear disarmament. He was a coalition builder, exemplified by his diplomatic efforts leading up to the Gulf War in 1991. Bush united a global alliance to expel Iraq from Kuwait, demonstrating the power of international cooperation. His tenure also saw the reunification of Germany and the strengthening of NATO ties, helping to stabilize Europe after decades of division. Let's talk about economic context. First, let's look at the economic landscapes during their presidencies. Under Trump, the economy saw significant growth before the pandemic hit, followed by a sharp downturn when COVID-19 struck. The government responded with large stimulus packages to aid recovery, and Trump's current term has emphasized tariffs and a push for energy independence. In contrast, George H.W. Bush faced a recession in the early 1990s and a rising federal deficit. Although there were economic expansions prior to the downturn, these challenges damaged his re-election chances. Now let's cover legacy. How history remembers these two leaders. Trump's presidency led to deep polarization and a dramatic transformation of the Republican Party, steering it in a more populist direction. He made lasting judicial appointments and, according to some critics, weakened certain democratic norms. Bush, on the other hand, is remembered for his foreign policy achievements, such as managing the peaceful end of the Cold War and leading the coalition in the Gulf War. However, his successes abroad were often overshadowed by domestic economic struggles. Despite these challenges, he's often regarded as a statesman who valued his diplomacy and bipartisanship. So while both presidents faced economic headwinds, their approaches and the mark they left on the nation could not be more different. One is defined by confrontation and disruption, the other by coalition building and steady leadership. Well, that wraps up today's episode. Next time, I'll talk about a different Bush, George W. Bush, in comparison to the current president. This is DFG. If you can't find somebody to laugh at yourself, find somebody to laugh at you. Peace.